Right off the bat, this video is very stream of consciousness. I feel it comes across a little more genuine. I apologize to anyone who finds life a little daunting. Maybe put it on in the background, and I hope you guys enjoy. So speaking of background, I'm going to give you a little background on me, but before I even get into that, I realize I'm a little late to the party with this movement, and I'll explain why in a second. But yeah, a lot of the things I talk about are still very relevant, and I actually include talking points about the updates to the situation over the past couple days, weeks. So anyway, a little background on me. I've been playing the game since the beta, and if you don't know what that means, this is what that means. There was a beta before the official release, and you could get into it by pre-ordering the game. I came from TFC, so yeah, needless to say, I've been playing the game for quite a bit. Yeah, I'm old. So yeah, besides that, I have a lot of hours also. This is the exact amount, and I would say it's closer to about 17,600. I make a point not to leave the game on, so they're, you know, pretty legit, but it's bound to have happened over almost 17 years. So besides that, I've also run a server that was pretty well received and pretty popular back in the day, 2012, 2013. So I say all this to say that I have a lot of experience with this game, and I'm pretty passionate about it, and you know, it's been a big part of my life. So yeah, that's a little background on me. About being late to the party, I recorded an hour's worth of footage before the ban wave, and I'll get into that if you're not familiar with that situation. But the story has changed so much since then that I felt the need to redo it all. And there was even a third initial recording attempt a couple days after the fixed TF2 movement started, and I tried to do it as I was playing the game. I was much more distracted than I realized. Every other word was there was a lot of unnecessary pauses, so I thought I'd make it a little more organized, and I made a list with bullet points. So yeah, third time's the charm, guys. The other thing is I spent way too much time on the thumbnail. That's another reason this is late. It's kind of absurd. I just am a perfectionist with certain things. I have an affinity for art and graphic design, so I might even show you the folder with all the different Photoshop files. It's kind of ridiculous, but I'm pretty happy with how it came out, and obviously that's the most important part of the video that you should focus on. So anyway, yeah, if you don't know about the ban waves, by the way, Valve actually took action, and they have banned a lot of the bot hosters and the cheaters. And nobody was expecting this, and it's kind of amazing. And a lot of people have given speculation, or they've even found evidence that this has been an ongoing thing. It's not something that was initiated by the Fixed TF2 movement. Maybe it was streamlined or, you know, pushed forward a little bit on their agenda because of this movement. I'm not sure, but it's an amazing time to play the game. A lot of people are wondering if it's a band-aid fix, and by that people mean that if it's just a temporary solution, or if they're going to, you know, keep doing this. There's been this meme about Valve not wanting to do treadmill work, and I've seen a post recently that stated that attribution to them is actually misquoted, misattributed, because I read the actual quote where people got that from, and they've said that they don't have a problem with doing it, or they feel like it's a necessary part of the game. I'll try to find it and post it in the video. But anyway, I will touch on this a little more at the end. I also want to get into why I wanted to make this video, right? You know, I normally don't do stuff like this. I may have uploaded a video or two to this channel over the years to submit to Reddit or show a friend or whatever, but I normally don't feel strongly enough about an issue, about a game, you know, let alone this game, to make an entire video about it. But the bot crisis, especially last Halloween, was just so absurd. I thought I needed to make a commentary on it. I recorded 20 minutes of me playing through a bunch of casual matches, or trying to, and I uploaded it to YouTube, and thought I had actually made it private because I wasn't really happy with the way I sounded, and I woke up to 2,500 likes and a bunch of comments and a lot of positive reception. So I figured, if this is the reception I'm getting for something I'm not trying on, imagine what can happen if I do try with a video and work on it and edit it or whatever. So it was kind of a good little thing that happened by accident, because again, I thought I'd made that Halloween video private. So that's the inspiration and the motivation for this video. And as far as the reason exactly, there's been a lot of the same talking points and criticisms of this movement that I keep seeing online. And I feel like there's a decent counterpoint and counter argument to all of them that I kind of get tired of saying, and figured I'd put them all in a video, and hopefully some people agree and feel like their opinion is heard also, and hope you guys just enjoy what I have to say. So the very last thing I wanted to say, and I think it's important, I don't know everything about this game, okay? I don't care that I've been playing since the beta. Maybe there's something of note to that. It at least shows that I'm not new to the game. I kind of have base knowledge of it, you know what I mean? I'm not, a new PC gamer. I'm not a new TF2 player. So I feel like it has a little bit of merit, but regardless of that, regardless of my hours, regardless that I ran a server, I don't know everything, okay? And I wanted to almost caution people, and people started to realize this, I feel like, in the past couple weeks since I started this video, is that, not to dump on other creators or whatever, but, be cautious of other TF-tubers as well, right? Because they're some guy that plays the game like me, and maybe they speak very confidently, they're charismatic to a certain degree, their editing is cool, they probably have something going for them where they've gotten a lot of followers, but they're not infallible, right? I've seen, I'm not going to name the guy specifically, a certain content creator that there's been a post about saying, I have literally proven this guy wrong. I made, a mock-up of AI bot detection using, I don't know, some API provided by Steam or whatever to see if I could detect them, and it's been 98% effective. So this person saying it can't be done is not true, through AI. And another example is, I remember looking at one content creator for this game. He had over 100,000 subscribers. He still has that. He still makes content. In the first 45 seconds of this dude talking, I noticed 5 inaccuracies in what he was talking about. And luckily somebody in the comments mentioned 4 of them, and I just said, hey, there's another one. So these people, I'm sure it doesn't come from a malicious place. They have love for the game. They have some knowledge, obviously, of the game, but just be cautious. Don't hang on these people's words too much, even mine. Like, for real, this is just my opinion. Just come in with a little bit of skepticism and try to, I don't know, I guess think for yourself, really. So yeah, just a little preface, because I feel like it's a very big trend in this community. I mean, I love this community, I love the people in it, but to hang on the words of TF2 content creators. So just, be cautious and realize everybody makes mistakes. So after 1,000,001 minutes, I feel like I'm finally going to get into the meat and potatoes of what I wanted to talk about. So my main thing is, when money is involved, things should work as they're expected, okay? And I hear this a lot, people saying, oh, but these purchases are optional, the stuff from the store is optional. Okay, well, all purchases are optional, right? Everything in life is optional to buy. But just because something's a novelty purchase, a vanity purchase, does that mean we're supposed to give up some kind of expectation of quality, some kind of quality assurance? That's not how that works. You know what I mean? You pay money for something, it's expected to function to a certain degree. And if it doesn't, you are going to want your money back. Or there needs to be a warning beforehand that the product or the product within the service is not functional. And there's not. So that's the next part of that, is a lot of these people are coming from the viewpoint of somebody who's already familiar with the game and the ongoing bot issue, right? Think of new players, and they do come into the game, and a lot more often than would be for a pay-to-play game, because, I don't know, it's free, so people are more likely to try it out. So, and there are still new people coming into the game. I've seen posts over the past couple months, I'm a new player, does anybody have any tips? So it does happen. So imagine you're a new player, you open up this game. This is perfect too, because it wasn't an oasis period when I first started this video, but this is a perfect example. So we're now in an oasis period, just like after the 64-bit update, or I don't know, some other grace period where there wasn't as many bots. So imagine you're a new player, you're unfamiliar with the bot crisis that's been going on for 5 years, by the way, and you load up a casual match. You know, there's a big green button that says find a game. You click on it. What's the first thing under that? Casual. So you hit it. It seems pretty straightforward. You join a game and you don't encounter any bots. You say, oh my god, I like this game a lot. This is super fun, and you leave. Maybe you play a couple matches, which is very, possible at this point with no bots. So you get this impression that the game is functional, which you shouldn't have an impression otherwise. It wouldn't really make sense to expect a game not to work when you try it out. So they experience this game that functions in their viewpoint, and they say, I like this game a lot, I'm gonna buy some weapons, right? And they load up the shop, they see, that soldier pack or whatever, and they buy it, they pay money for it, and then, maybe the bot hosters, which seems almost inevitable, they do something where they get it all going again, the bots do. The bots have now infested the game again, and this has happened before, like the 64-bit update thing. They came back, a week later or something? So this isn't out of the realm of possibility. So somebody gets this, I want to say, false impression of the game, even at this point, that the game is fully functional and doesn't have any issues. They spend their money on it, and then what happens? A couple days, weeks or so later, they can't use the items that they for the game that they bought them for. And I came up with an analogy because a lot of people are saying that there's community servers, that all purchases are optional, that whatever. And I was tired of hearing it. So picture that you're online, you come across a website advertising a golf course, right? And they have a mini golf course and they have a normal golf course. So on that website, it doesn't really matter how you came across it. Maybe somebody told you about it. Maybe it was an ad. I don't know. Doesn't matter. There's a service that they list. It says for $10, you can go over the megaphone and announce things. The closing time, something fun. Maybe you can control the music that plays over the loudspeakers for the whole golf course for a day. And you can change the light colors at nighttime to, some type of cool colored lights that you like or whatever. So somebody sees that, they say, hey, that sounds pretty fun. Maybe they've even been there before and they pay for it, right? So they pay for that service. And to help this analogy, the golf course is free, by the way, right? So they pay for this service in this free golf course, and they go there, and maybe they've played there for years, right? They played on the mini golf course for years, and it works as intended. The service works as intended. Why wouldn't it, right? So one day they come in, maybe it's been a little bit, maybe they're new. It doesn't really matter. They find that listing online to use that service, buy it, then go to the golf course, and what do they see? The entire mini golf course is flooded, most of it. They not only experience that, there's a big wasp problem. They've infested the mini golf course, and for all intents and purposes, these people can't play there, right? So imagine now if people say to them, hey, you didn't have to buy those services. It's free to play here. And then they say, why don't you just play on the regular golf course, right? How would the person respond? They'd probably say something like, listen, there was no mention of that. I've been playing there for years, and I don't like regular golf, so I'm not going to play there. And in this analogy, that's community servers. So in a real life scenario, it just sounds silly to be like, none of your concerns matter because it's free to play here. You spent money and you bought something, and you couldn't use it, and there was no warning. And that's the other thing is, there's no warning that the bot crisis has been plaguing and ruining and making casual mode unplayable. And by the way, I'll get into the community server stuff later. So, no point in the install process, the queuing process, the man code store purchasing process. Does it say anything like, we are currently experiencing an ongoing crisis with hackers that may ruin the match, so please be aware of that before you buy items. Nowhere does it say something like that. So these new people might be expecting a functional game, and I have a similar situation like that as a veteran player. I bought about 5 years ago, to use in casual, a ton of Eternally items, right? Which make the server you're on for 2 hours have the ability to use the Halloween cosmetics. And I bought that for casual, right? For new players, just to, be nice to new players and, do something fun. I didn't buy it for community servers, partly because most community servers run that setting year-round. It's a simple command to run Halloween mode year-round, so a lot of them have that. So that's not why I bought those items. So I paid for that. I used a couple of them, and then what happens? These bots are infesting the game. So I go into a casual mode, and I might not even been aware of that at this point. Use one, and then what happens? 20 minutes, half hour later, these bots infest the game, and my item has been made useless because people leave. And that can happen regardless, but not prime time on a day that historically had, seen a full player count. And, I clearly used the item based on previous knowledge of how populated the server would be. I don't think anybody expects there to be an issue that makes people leave en masse because the game has become virtually, almost literally unplayable. So, yeah, the separation of paid items and the free service should not be relevant either. And I kind of went into that with my analogy. You're still paying money for something, and it doesn't work as intended. I don't care about the method in which you use the item is free, but the service is free, but the item is not. It doesn't matter. It all boils down to you're spending your hard-earned money on something that doesn't work for all intents and purposes. And again, the community server thing, I'll get into in a second. The last thing I want to touch on about the money-related thing is there's really no refunds. I think I read somewhere in an old thread you have 48 hours to get a refund, and it was old, so that might not even apply anymore. I know Valve support doesn't respond. They're not real good with the responses, and a lot of them are kind of canned responses. So, and like I said, this issue that's been kind of pretty much ongoing for 5 years could temporarily subside like it did after the 64-bit update, and then come back a couple days or weeks later. So the refunds aren't really a viable option because of the very real possibility these bot hosters take well over 48 hours to regroup. They did that in the 64-bit update. They invent a workaround, and by that time, these new players witness this, debilitating issue that was really there all along, and by that time, it's too late. Too little, too late. And that's exactly what happened in the 64-bit update. I think it took them about a week, roughly. So, yeah, might even actually happen to somebody, this exact scenario. So the other thing I keep hearing is that this game is 17 years old, okay? Why should Valve care? Are you still expecting them to update it? Well, it's not abandoned, right? There's still cosmetic updates that are released, so it's still being presented as a functional game. And really, what does the amount of time it's been out have to do with it, with that context that they're still releasing updates? And I always use this as a comparison and point people to Minecraft and World of Warcraft. And I realize they're very different games, but there's still similarities in that they're both very old, and they both have a lot of love and updates poured into them. Now, obviously, this isn't Valve's main moneymaker, but you know what I mean? There's still the presentation that it's functional with people being presented with the option to spend their money. So I don't really see why the amount of time that it's been out matters. There's products that have been out for 100 years, so you know what I mean? If they're being sold for money, they're still expected to work. And there's so much love, by the way, still poured into this game. There's so many amazing source mod plugins, game modes, maps, workshop mods. There was just a map released in the past couple months that basically ported Quake to TF2. The player model sounds are different. The map looks like Quake. You're restricted to one class, quote unquote, which is like the main guy that everybody plays as in Quake, and there's weapon unlocks. So, and somebody released a map where a tornado goes through the capture point. Like, people are doing crazy stuff with this game still, like amazing, cool stuff. Sandcastle, which was released at Halloween, I was impressed by. There's like a point at the end where everybody's big, even though it's like a rats map, and like the winning team stomps on the losing team at the end. So there's still a lot of love poured into this game. People still care about it. There's still anywhere from, 12,000 to 50,000 players, something like that. So it's not abandoned. It's pretty much, beloved by a lot of people, and it's still very much playable and fun. The next thing I wanted to get into is this sentiment that community servers just play community servers, right? That's pretty much all I play, okay? That's all we had at the beginning, which I don't even know if people realize. We didn't have Valve servers for many years until I think the Uber update in 2011. So that's all I play. That's all I'm used to. I don't have a problem with it. The pickings are a little slimmer than what they used to be, but there's still a ton of good ones. And as an aside, I'll actually have a link in the description to a post I made of a bunch of good ones that I've either found or had on my favorites for some time. And I'm again thinking about starting mine up again. I've already rented it out, so maybe people could check that out if you missed it the first go around years ago, another lifetime. But yeah, as much as I appreciate and support community servers, they're not the same, okay? There's regions that don't even have access to any besides like one main one, really. So that's not applicable to two entire continents, Asia and Australia. So even in North America and EU, where they're a lot easier to find, it's still not the same. There's plugins that restrict classes, that have scramble settings some people don't like, that do XYZ that people don't like, so it's really not the same. Plus, you don't have the benefit of just hitting a button and joining right into them. So that's a big thing. You don't have to start them up by yourself. There's always going to be differences. Random crits are turned off a lot. All talk is on, which I prefer, and a lot of the player bases in those servers are, for whatever reason, more experienced with the game, so it's not really the best venue for newer players. The next thing I hear people say in criticism of this movement, or why it's not attainable to fix this, is the flat workplace at Valve. And if you don't know what that means, the way Valve's company is structured, their workflow, or whatever you want to call it, is any employee there is able to switch and swap between whatever project they want to work on. So, you know, that sounds great in theory, but what ends up happening is, you know, people say that comes into play with performance reviews, you know what I mean? Somebody is working on this older project, one of the older IPs, instead of the new project that's having all this, it's going to have all this buzz and interest, and hopefully, you know, realistically probably going to get them more revenue if it's successful. So people say that's not where the money is. Their coworkers even will say this guy isn't helping our company grow, who wants to work on TF2 in the performance reviews. So people say, first off, why would an employee even want to do that in the first place? Because he'd basically be jeopardizing his job. And then they say, you know, regardless of that, this wouldn't line up with how Valve's company works because of their flat workplace structure. And I say, I don't give a shit. Then they need to change it, okay? Because this clearly isn't working. People hate this company now that was once beloved because of the neglect for 5 years, by the way, really, of this issue. So it's clearly not working, so change it up. And obviously that's easier said than done, but you know, sometimes you just gotta make adjustments if something's not working. There's a quote, by the way, by Robin Walker, who was one of the creators of Team Fortress, the original Quake mod in 1996, who now works at Valve, saying that they had to do away with that, by the way, for Half-Life Alyx. They had to do away with that flat workplace structure and basically assign people to the Half-Life Alyx project to meet deadlines. So they have at least one time realized that wasn't working. So, yeah. If something's not working, I don't care what the workplace structure is, then it needs to change. So, and again, obviously that's easier said than done, but the next thing people always mention, or I guess they don't mention, is the money and resources that Valve has. They are an $8.6 billion company, according to a statistic I saw the other day, and for a while it was 7.7 or something, and that was from 2023. 2024, they're estimated their net worth is 8.6 billion. So it's gone up that much in a year, okay? They're not absent of money here. They make enough money. If 0.1% of their earnings, $10 million, goes to hiring a team of people to combat this, that's 0.1%. $10 million is 0.1% of $8.6 billion, okay? And Steam, I would say, is borderline self-sustaining, by the way. You know what I mean? More people are coming of age to buy Steam purchases. We're growing exponentially as a population, so, you know what I mean? And they have a monopoly pretty much on the PC gaming market. Like, I don't know what the percentage is, maybe I'll throw it in the video, of people who buy their PC games from Steam versus any other platform, and they're actually getting sued because of that monopoly. So that could, I guess, affect them, but we'll see how that plays out. I have a feeling they probably have some good lawyers at an $8.6 billion company, so we'll see. But yeah, they have the money. If 0.1% of their earnings go towards combating this by hiring a team that's $10 million, and that's 0.1% of their earnings. So I think $10 million is a pretty significant chunk of change. I think that could be used to hire some cybersecurity people, programmers, game developers that could look into this issue and maintain it. And I go into the technical aspect of detecting the bots or banning them or whatever down the line, but I think they could hire some good people with $10 million and not eat into their profits. And by the way, I don't think that would eat into their profits. To deal with this issue, I think they would gain profits. Any man hours they would lose due to having to have somebody train these new people, and any money lost to have to hire and train these new people would be gained back because people are coming into your game again. And I don't think the percentage of loss that they would potentially have from that would be big at all, because like I said, Steam is borderline self-sustaining. There's one, how many people does it take to train somebody? They're not taking every single one of their employees away to train these new people of how their game works, what kind of systems they have to, to update it. Eric Smith, the one guy who works on TF2 still, and I don't know, a couple people who have knowledge of Steam's, their in-house system. So it's not going to take 400 people or how many people they have there to train these new people, and I think they would make back any money or man hours they would lose from it, because there'd be a resurgence of interest and subsequently spending in this game. The other thing is Valve is not a publicly owned company, okay? They don't have shareholders to report to that they got to worry about, is this decision hurting the company in the short run or the long term? It's privately owned, so it's just whatever the people at the top want to do, how they see it should be run. They don't have to worry about investors saying, why are you focusing on this stuff? We want you to focus on this newer stuff. That's where the interest and we think the revenue is going to be. So they can more or less do what they want as a company. The next thing I wanted to get into is the actual technical aspect of the bots. And this has changed a lot, the talk surrounding this, because of the game bans. And I'll get into that later towards the end of my talking points. But I don't understand when people say that these bots cannot be detected. And there's a Reddit post, which I will provide once I publish this video, where somebody basically said these can absolutely be detected to a 98% accuracy rate, and I'll get into that 2% that's not. I'm a grad student at MIT, and I've done all these tests, and to give credit to criticism of that, a lot of people said that this guy didn't really provide proof. He kind of did in his summation, and I was really on their side to begin with. I'm like, where's the proof? This sounds pretty plausible. The more I thought about it, I didn't see it as plausible at all, that somebody would just make this up. The wording was very professionally written. It wasn't like a paragraph with typos. It was very well composed. The guy commented and responded a lot. It didn't set off my BS detector at all. And the reason he gave that he didn't provide the data was pretty believable too. He said this can be used to be reverse engineered for bot hosters to work around. I was like, makes sense. And I think he initially said he wanted to release the data, but he had been talking with, I believe the guy's name is Mega Scatterbomb, who I forget exactly what he did. I think he made a database of cheaters and bot hosters and made a video about it. It was very impressive. And he apparently has a programming background. He's the same way, where he just comes across as very genuine. I think he might even showcased his systems or databases or whatever in his video. But yeah, this did not come across at all to me as BS or potentially BS. So somebody basically proved that these can be detected, and again, that 2% that's not accurate. My thing is, okay, so say this detection method sets off a 80% chance, hell, a 60% chance that the computer thinks this person is a bot, right? So how about after that happens, it goes into a queue or a database that somebody at Valve checks and, looks at, and if they're super obvious, which the sniper bots are that we're all used to, that just zoom in and look up and are super obvious, then they ban them. And I feel like that might be kind of what's happening now, except instead of the AI detection, it's reports. But yeah, I think a combination of both would work for the most obvious ones. Those sniper bots, their behavior is very, it's very consistent and consistently obvious. They're always zoomed in. They come out of spawn. They instantly, probably faster than human reaction, headshot people. They're set to a straight path that they don't deviate from. They never turn around. They never move backwards. They kind of wear the same thing. They're always saying stuff in chat. They are always mic spamming. They have probably a billion other traits I'm not even aware of, not being a programmer, that make them super obvious that they're bots. So if that triggers above a 50%, I say put that in a queue. Maybe make it 70 or whatever, and then somebody can go in and ban them manually. And I think that's what's happening now. And there was this talking point that there's 300 Valve servers. So is that plausible to hire 300 people to sit in every server and wait for bots to join? And I say to that, why do they need to sit in every server? Why not just queue for casual? You know what I mean? Go in, see if someone's a bot, who's very obviously a bot, ban them, re-queue. Just keep doing that. That doesn't need to be in every server. And again, you could hire a bunch of people with that money, that $10 million I said, which is 0.1% of their earnings, could hire some people to manually do it. They could greenlight, vetted community members to do it. So that's for the obvious ones, right? That AI detection I think could help with. The other non-obvious bots could be looked at from reports. And there's been footage of these quote-unquote less obvious bots and ones that are supposed to mimic human behavior. I think they use routes that a previous actual human used and they replicate them. My thing is, I've seen that footage and I'm sorry, but it's obvious to me they're bots. They turn in weird angles. The video wasn't long enough, but I can't help but think that anything they bumped into that wasn't there the previous match recorded from an actual human, like a dispenser or a spy or any enemy, that would be super obvious. I'd imagine they'd stop in their tracks or something bizarre. I could tell that these people were bots. So somebody to go in and look at it manual, I think would be able to tell too. Maybe they'd have to, get a couple more opinions, but I think they could figure it out. And even if not, the main obvious ones are still a step in the right direction. So it's still, I think, very helpful to ban even the obvious ones. And obviously, these bot hosters can adjust their software or whatever to account for these detection methods, but that's something that these employees at Valve could work around. I mean, this back and forth is inevitable, but I think it's necessary because you're still, again, pumping money into this game and presenting the product as a functional product. So the next thing, and we're getting towards the end, is the PR aspect of this. No company wants this PR. This is horrible PR right now. The company was beloved for a long time, and now they're not. And there's a legal aspect I'll get into next. That's my next talking point. So no company's going to want this bad PR, okay? It's not a good look. So the next thing is the legal aspect. So I don't know if anybody who plays this game is aware, there's currently 3 IPs of Valve's that have been dealing with terrible issues that makes their game unplayable or nearly unplayable. Counter-Strike 2 or CSGO has had, I believe, a hacking issue that's gotten so absurd that professional players have left because of it. And I don't know if it's waned or risen or stayed the same in the past year, but it's been very bad from my understanding. And I have a history with that game too, but I don't play it too much anymore. But the fact that I've seen videos, I think a video and maybe a Twitter post that 2 professional players have left, then that tells me that it's bad. I get recommendations all the time of videos about it, so it's apparently really, really bad, and people have left the game because of it. So that's 2 IPs. Then there's Left 4 Dead 2. And Left 4 Dead 2 is a paid game, by the way. They have been dealing with DDoSing. And if you don't know what that means, it stands for direct denial of service, and it basically just means that somebody is spamming the connection to a server intentionally to lag it. It's a malicious act. So, and apparently they dealt with it in January, I believe it was, when it happened, and it just now is starting all over again. I just read an article that expressed that, and this is making the entire game unplayable, apparently. And I heard it was really bad initially for 6 months or something. So if 3 of your IPs as a company, your products, pretty much are broken, to me, that would trigger a thought like, we might have to get serious about this, because if Valve ever goes to court, and they are going to court, by the way, over the Monopoly thing last time I checked, and I've done my homework and I see that, okay, you have this one game that costs money that has this ongoing issue where it's unplayable, another where you have an issue over 5 years where it's basically unplayable, and 2 boycotts have happened because people are so pissed off about it, and another game where it's unplayable, and the ones that aren't paid outright offer services or items that cost money, and maybe they don't get into it that deep, but they see that there's these glaring issues, right, with this company that have remained unresolved. Yet you, as a company with $9.1 billion, haven't communicated awareness on these issues, except let's not forget, like 3 years into the TF2 one, and then you let it sit for another 2 years. No disclaimer on any of these, that we're going through issues, that the games are unplayable. I don't think it's a stretch for the judge to do their due diligence with this $1 billion class action lawsuit to check their social media, the companies, and see that they don't communicate anything. You know what I mean? There's no disclaimer with any of these issues within the games. They could even ask questions in the hearing themselves and find out that there's no disclaimer from this company warning new people, don't buy this, don't purchase this. I'm going to be like, what the hell are you guys doing? You know what I mean? I'm not going to have any sympathy for you. 1 IP is too much to have non-functional. 3 is something where I'd be like, all right, these people are taking advantage of their customers. And I think there's a very real argument to be made of false advertising, right? So I definitely think there's a legal concern there. And do I think these issues will hold up in a court of law by themselves? I don't know. Honestly, probably not. But the fact is, it makes them look bad, okay, when they go for anything else. And that's what they're doing right now. They're going for an issue related to Monopoly, and it's just not a good precedent. The other legal aspect is these bot hosters are doing more than just being assholes and running bots in the game. They've literally committed crimes. And I'm not exaggerating, there's a video on it. I think the guy's name is The What Show, where they've swatted somebody's house, which, if you don't know what that means, they fake a bomb pad or something and the SWAT team gets called to the person's house. They have DDoSed people. You can't mess with somebody's, paid service, their internet, their ISP. They've impersonated people and made them say terrible things. That has to be a crime. The SWAT thing is obviously 100% without a doubt a crime. I think they might have said death threats. The one has been posting links to, without being too graphic, illustrations, I believe, of, underage depictions of, minors or whatever, like illustrations like that. They've been posting links to it. I don't know if they actually go to it. I don't know if that's technically illegal, but all these things combined, like, they're committing crimes, okay? So the company that's allowing that to happen should take that seriously. And that's the other thing, and I'm going to give you another analogy, because a lot of people are saying that they don't have the obligation to deal with this, right? They're not making these people do that. So I say, okay, so this is kind of similar to the other analogy. You host a concert, a free outdoor concert, right? You're the promoter and the organizer. You have a concession stand, and there's a service provider. Let's say it does the same thing as the golf course. Somebody says you can announce the acts when they come on, you can mess with the lights, do a light show, you can play a set playlist of yours during the break in between the acts. And maybe you've been doing that for years. And suddenly you go there, and one day there are people running around harassing people. There's a bunch of these people being so disruptive, the majority of the people in attendance, pretty much, for all intents and purposes, you can't stay there. No sane person would stay there. It's unsafe. And as somebody who paid for those services and can't use them, you would expect the organizer to do something about it. And when people are literally committing crimes, maybe they're getting on the microphone, they're saying racial slurs and hate speech and death threats. There's an assault that happens every so often. It's not safe, and nobody would want to stay there. You are a bad event organizer to not deal with that, okay? Not only are you a poor organizer or coordinator or whatever, if these people are doing this at your event specifically, it seems to be their main hangout. It's not really going on in other concert venues for whatever reason. People are unsafe, crimes are being committed. You've known about that for 5 years. You are more or less letting that happen. I don't care if it was popping before 10 years ago, if there was, 10,000, 100,000 people there, and now there's 50, okay? You're still in charge of that event. You're allowing crimes to happen. You're allowing your event to be disruptive. And I feel you could almost be charged with negligence because you're allowing bad things to happen to people at your thing with full knowledge of that and not trying to take it seriously. So that's my response to people saying that they shouldn't do anything about it. And again, it boils down to people's money too. People spent money on the game expecting it to work. So the next thing, and we're getting towards the end, I had 19 talking points and we're on 15. The expectation of quality. And that's, you're a developer, and from almost a moral standpoint, they should just want to provide a working service. That's why they went into game development, I'm sure. It's to make games for people, to provide a fun thing for people to do, and obviously, making money is a part of it too, but just from an ethical standpoint, they should just, again, they're not hurting for money. They got enough money, so I feel like they should feel obligated to fix it. And they've said that they are working on it. They said in 2022, we are aware of the bot issue and we're working on it. So they've also kind of made a promise, not really, they expressed an interest to want to fix it. So they should follow through on that. The next thing is a lot of the criticisms of this movement. I would just be wary of them. A lot of them are not coming from, I don't think, a genuine, reasonable standpoint. A lot of these people, I feel like, are either trolls or contrarianists. I don't know what the noun form of that is. They're not coming from it from a logical, reasonable standpoint. They just want to cause problems. They like seeing an easy target, facing an uphill battle that maybe they fell off from the game that it's happening in, and they just like, saying, it's not going to work. Just, I don't know, that's how they get their kicks. So I feel like a lot of these criticisms are not coming from a genuine place. And also, the bot hosters have been known to be some of the perpetrators of this stuff. So yeah, these doomers, I guess, to use the term people have been using, a lot of them, I would just listen to what they're saying, but just be aware that their opinions might not be coming from the best place. And the other thing is, in regards to that, what is the harm in trying? I don't care how unlikely people think this is to succeed. What the hell is the harm in trying to organize this movement? You know what I mean? We have nothing to lose and everything to gain from trying to raise interest about this. And if it doesn't affect you if you don't play the game, what the hell are you doing criticizing it so hard? Unless you're, again, being a troll, you got nothing better to do. So yeah, that's what I said. What's the harm in trying? The next thing I mentioned, and I guess probably could have been talked about in another section, but it goes again to the TF tubers being infallible. There's been a lot of not only posts, like that Reddit post with the grad student working on that software to detect the bots. There's been replies in, I don't know if I want to put his name there, one of the most popular TF tubers, criticisms of the movement and the detection methods. There's so many replies saying, I understand your concern and your reasoning, but here's why I don't think that reasoning has as much merit as you're giving it. So there's other people like me who sound like they probably know what they're talking about, have some sort of knowledge base saying it's not as simple as that, it's not as doomed as that, there's XYZ you can do actually. And yeah, so something else I've been hearing people say is these bot hosters are not the programmers of the bots, right? They're, younger kids who are trying to be edgy and just wreak havoc. They're not the actual programmers. So when people say, if they ban them based on certain criteria or detection methods, then they'll just develop a workaround. That's not what's going on. These people run the software. They're not the programmers for the bots. So they could say, okay, it's now gotten a lot harder and my main account has been banned. I'm done. And that's happened. And that's my next topic. That's the second to last thing I'll talk about is the game ban. So it's already happened where somebody has said, I've seen the screenshot of the dude being like, I'm done. This is getting stupid. I'm done. Like I've had my, quote unquote fun, whatever it is for this dude. So it's already happened where they've just said, I'm done. The consequences have reached me. I don't feel like looking at new software to run these bots. I've got my account banned and I'm done. So yeah, it's not a given that they're going to react and update the software because most of them can't. So the next thing kind of in relation to that I wanted to talk about is the game bans. This has been such a cool thing that nobody expected at all. I didn't expect it. I don't think the most positive people in the world expected this. Valve went and manually banned a lot of these bot hosters. They banned I think some cheaters too. But what somebody made me aware of in the updates surrounding this and the talk surrounding this is these are not back bans. They're not an automatic thing that was flagged and they got banned. They're game bans. So that means somebody manually went in and banned this person. So somebody is kind of doing what I suggested before I even knew about this, and other people have been suggesting that somebody should manually look at these cases and ban these people, in the most obvious ones at least. So people's criticisms of that, right? And part of the reason I still made this video is, great, will they maintain this? Is this a band-aid fix? Are they just doing this one time or for a couple weeks and then moving on, and that person, because of their flat work environment, moves on to a different project and they don't worry about it and let it ride? Or are they going to maintain this? So there's still a possibility that this is a temporary solution, that they don't have somebody, that's their task and designation is to do these game bans and look for cheaters in TF2. Valve is very, very secretive. They have made like one Twitter post in the past like 5 years. They don't talk, they don't communicate to their player base, they don't, they're not a vocal company. That's part of their mission statement, I feel. I feel like it's literally a policy to be non-communicative. And I think someone said the reasoning is because if you promise something and don't deliver, it makes you look worse than if you just don't say anything to begin with, regardless of the outcome. So I guess it makes sense, but we don't know what they're doing. So they could very well be just doing this one time, guy moves on to a different project, and this happens all over again. So we don't know if this is the end of the bots, and it probably isn't. I hope it is, but apparently these things are hardware bans, so they're tied to the hardware ID of the person's computer, and there's ways around that. They can build a new computer, they can, if it's an IP ban, they can go on a new network. So there's always workarounds, and I want to be cautiously optimistic, but I'm more of a realist. No problems whatsoever with anybody who wants to remain super, super positive. I think that's great, but one of the main things that prevents me from going that route completely is this seems very dependent on Valve's maintenance of what they're currently doing right now to combat the bot crisis. And a development I forgot to mention, by the way, is there have been multiple reports of people on Reddit mainly that I've seen that have shown examples of the report player button actually doing something. There's screenshots people have submitted that have said, whatever the standard message is, thank you for the report or something. This, a report you made has translated to a ban or something. So use that F7 button, people. That's the report player button. I actually unpaused it because I didn't think it was ever going to be useful. I gotta refind it. So that's great. That's amazing. I'm not downplaying it, but I cannot forgive this company for taking 5 fucking years to fix this, and we don't even know if it's fixed long term. I do not believe in any stretch of the imagination it takes that long to implement a fix as a top-tier AAA $9 billion game company. Yes, there's a lot that goes into this, I'm sure, but 5 years is absolutely absurd. A year I could see, 2 even, but since 2019 with no solution, it's clear, in my opinion, it wasn't a big priority, and there probably weren't a ton of people working on that. So that brings me to the last real big talking point of this video, and it's honestly not even something I planned to talk about when I started this video, but it has to do with the Fix TF2 movement, so I figured I'd weigh in on it. The planned or previously planned boycott of the summer sale or update or whatever. So there's criticism that are saying the profits that Valve make off of Team Fortress are minuscule and trivial in comparison to the other ways they make money. And I've seen a statistic that says it's a lot bigger than people think. I mean, think about keys. They're used as a currency, let alone to open crates. I swear it was something like $20 to $40 million a year was the estimate TF2 makes. So I don't know. I don't really have an opinion on that, the plans for a boycott. I feel like we should support it, or I did initially. But they've done this manual ban, and honestly, I read a comment somewhere that said that the organizers of Fix TF2 had put that off, or that wasn't their game plan right now. Not sure. And something that throws a spanner into the works too is that also would be eating into payouts given to workshop creators. And the last thing I want to do is discourage people still creating awesome community content for this game. And it's not a new game. I don't know if you remember from the beginning of the video, or if you're just on the up and up with your TF2 fans, but yeah, 2007. You know what I mean? Like, MySpace was on the rise in 2007, okay? Like, I still think we had Michael Jackson. Obama hadn't been elected yet. You know what I mean? It's very possible some of you watching weren't even born yet. So, not a new game, okay? So, the fact that people are still creating stuff, and very creative, awesome stuff at that doesn't get into the game half the time, is the last thing I want to do, is to discourage those people. And I heard they don't really make a lot from the sales, or at least not as much as they think they should get. Unfortunately, I've looked it up, it's like 7%, somewhere I read 10 to 15. It's gotten worse over the years. So I don't know if that makes it more or less of an argument, you know, for the boycott, because it's like, are they even really getting paid that much anyway? Is that even, you know, a side hustle that they would even care about because it might be so low? I mean, probably, I'd imagine it's getting them money one way or the other. So yeah, whether somebody wants to support this or not is up to any individual person. Just like it's up to them to care about this movement, not care about this movement, listen to what I have to say, agree with what I have to say. People can decide for themselves if they want to boycott giving money to Valve or not. They've shown that they've, I guess, had some concern, and they did something with these game bans. So, but again, is that just temporary? So, I'm not sure. I haven't spent money on the game in a while. Anytime I did, I kind of held back because of the way they were doing this. So I don't really have an opinion one way or the other on that. Maybe somebody else has better reasoning surrounding it. But I got through everything. That's all I wanted to say. So I hope somebody enjoyed this. You're now approximately 5 years older, and your head is full of stupid ideas. I hope people enjoyed this random footage that I pulled together. I tried to make it entertaining. I actually wasted a bunch more time than I already had and admitted to, because the quality was horrible initially where it wasn't before, so I had to record a bunch more video over too. I think it had to do with OBS, which was okay initially, and then it wasn't. Using the built-in AMD one now, not that anybody cares, and it seems to be working okay. I also think the 64 update actually worked against me somehow and made my game run worse. Don't ask me. I'm not the only one though, I looked it up. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed that footage. It's definitely some highlights. I'm a very inconsistent player, which is very sad with my hours. But yeah, figured it'd be more entertaining than when I suck. The last clip, by the way, if I don't change it, is of a custom map called TF2 Party. And as a quick aside, I think people should support community servers more, and modders and map makers, because there's somebody most likely losing money to provide these maps to be played as a server owner. And these map makers put a lot of time into it in this game that for a while there's not a lot of hope and not a lot of content and updates and love from the developer in comparison to other games out there. So I think there should be more support for community servers, and like I said, I'm hopefully starting mine up at some point, and in the meantime there's that list of community servers that I'll post. So yeah, that's why I threw that last clip in that's not traditional vanilla-ish TF2, just to show how much fun these custom game modes and maps can be when they're supported and there's a lot of people joining in. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope you guys have enjoyed listening to me, and you know, if you liked what I had to say, don't hit that like button. Definitely don't subscribe. And when you're done, delete your YouTube account and throw your computer out the window. It's just, you know, yeah, just kind of recommending the standard thing people do anymore when they get done watching the video and enjoy it. Anyway, fix TF2. I'll see you guys later.